Part 51. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 521. Late at night, when the yellow incense stick standing on the table gradually burned out, Su Tong slowly opened his eyelids. He stretched out his hand and threw a black pill into the prop book. The calamity of death. The eater will be blessed with a negative thing and will encounter a sudden death disaster within 3 hours, and before the sudden death, the eater's luck will increase by 70%. If the eater can avoid this unexpected disaster, his luck will be permanently increased by 30%. This elixir was refined using the insect girl. It can be said to be a blessing and a curse, a double-edged sword. But it was not the pill that made Su Tong look solemn, but the insect girl's words. This guy said nothing in the hall, no matter what Ya tried to do. Until his will came to the hall, relying on his absolute authority in the hall and the threat of hellfire. Only then did the insect girl speak. However, she did not explain why she wanted to kill Gross and Stacy, but told Su Tong another piece of information with a ferocious face. The container has been prepared, and soon the entire population of Amontes will be sacrificed. After saying this, the insect girl actually wanted to destroy herself, so Su Tong could only throw it directly into the fairy furnace, and finally got this thing in exchange. What is a container? And the whole people of Anmantes must be sacrificed. This short sentence contained amazing information, which made Su Tong couldn't help but think of the two archbishops Evelyn and Andre coming here. Maybe the murdered archbishop is inextricably linked to this incident. Boom. No, that bitch can only be thrown into the trash can. She doesn't deserve to be buried in the same cemetery as our ancestors, let alone expect me to read her eulogy. Anna. Her body is still in the funeral parlor. Bang, bang. There was a sound of breaking glass downstairs, and if you listened carefully, it was the voices of Mr. and Mrs. Morgan. They seemed to be arguing about Stacy's funeral. I remember Josie said that this aunt was not very popular in their family, and it seemed true now. Su Tong shook his head and blocked part of his perception. He didn't want to hear the quarrels downstairs anymore. He always had an attitude of staying away from other people's housework. He couldn't help but look out the window. Anmantes was quiet at night, with only the chimneys of the factory in the distance still emitting black smoke. This guy Ji Xiang, why haven't you heard from him for so long? Ever since the last time he asked Jixiang to contact the local rats so that he could find out all the current information about Anmantes for himself, this guy was like a lost husky, not even a single message came back. Although he could use his status as the leader to forcefully call on it and order it to come back immediately, after thinking about it, he decided to wait for another 2 days to see. Bang bang bang. At this time there was a knock on the door. Su Tong opened the door and it was Qiao Qian. She had her hair down and was only wearing a thin pair of pajamas. She stared at Su Tong's body and stretched out her arms to hug Su Tong without saying a word. She didn't know whether it was because of the cold or fear, but her arms were shaking slightly. Can I sleep with you? I dare not close my eyes. Woof. There is a Labrador squatting next to it. One man and one dog stared at him with pitiful eyes. Su Tong wanted to refuse, after all, he was a man and a woman alone, but then he thought about it, when did he start caring about this thing? I knew you would never forget her. That bitch doesn't deserve to be my sister. You are simply unreasonable. It was so many years ago. She is just a cold corpse now. What else can I do to the corpse? Anna is your half-sister. How can you bear to let her will my soul not be able to rest in peace? The noise downstairs continued. Qiao Qian buried her head in Su Tong's arms and hugged her even tighter. Come in. Su Tong could no longer refuse. After closing the door, Su Tong lay on the bed and let Qiao Qian hold him. Will you leave? Qiao Qian still kept her eyes open and placed her head on Su Tong's heart, as if she would think of something terrible if she closed her eyes. Why do you ask? Because you are an angel. In the story, all angels will leave this world. He, actually I would rather be buried in the soil. In the dark room, the two people whispered, and occasionally a faint laugh could be heard. Of course, it's not just happy laughter, but occasionally you can hear Su Tong's displeased complaints, "Stupid dog, don't press my legs, get off me. Woof." Gradually, the sound gradually became smaller and smaller. Qiao Qian lay in Su Tong's arms and put her ear in front of his heart. The sound of the strong and powerful heartbeat seemed like a lullaby, which made her close her eyes and slowly fall asleep. Go down. At noon the next day, Master Moses sat on a chair with dark circles under his eyes. Mrs. Moses's eyes were red and swollen, which made her look particularly funny. Neither of them spoke. They probably had been arguing all night, and their throats were broken and they couldn't speak at all. Su Tong and Qiao Qian were still eating. At this time Shar came over. "Master, Archbishop Evelyn is here and wants to see you." After speaking, he raised his head and looked at Josie. "There is also Miss Josie." "I." At this moment, everyone was startled, and the Morgans couldn't help but look at Josie, their eyes becoming worried. After all, they had personally experienced the horror of Archbishop Evelyn last time. The terrifying power that suffocated all living creatures in the Morgan family without saying a word or even moving a finger. In the eyes of Master Morgan, "Come, that is God. Let's go." Su Tong wiped his mouth and stood up. It is estimated that Evelyn came because her status in the church has been officially recognized, and then it depends on the church's arrangements. As for why he wanted to see Qiao Qian, Su Tong didn't know, but everyone was already here, so he would know if he asked her face to face. Evelyn did not enter the Morgan and his wife's house, but was still sitting under the fruit tree, waiting for Su Tong. The armored guard beside him seemed to be standing behind him like a statue. The difference is that Art and Bishop Barrett were also there last night, but unfortunately they could only stand obediently in front of Evelyn. After seeing Su Tong, a smile gradually appeared on Evelyn's face, and she stepped forward to examine Su Tong carefully. "I haven't seen the pure dark aura for a long time." The last time they met, Su Tong used the power of phaseless power to temporarily change the dark constitution into the sacred constitution, but the skill of phaseless power has a time limit. Now he comes to see Evelyn in a dark physical state. That kind of pure dark aura without any impurities not only did not arouse Evelyn's doubts, but also strengthened her belief in the dream Su Tong had mentioned before. Because this is not the aura that low-level demons can have, at least it is the aura that only high-level demons and even those demon kings in hell can have. Only souls blessed by archangels can be protected from pollution. Such a delicate balance is not something a dirty bastard like Nephilim can compare to. Faced with Evelyn's compliment, Su Tong smiled back and then sat on the chair consciously. Only then did Evelyn look at Josie. In fact, Art and Barrett had been looking at her for a long time. "Miss Josie, I feel very sorry for the misfortune of your relative. Bishop Barrett is even willing to personally conduct her funeral. If you are willing, Ms. Stacy's body can also be buried in the church's exclusive mausoleum." When mentioning Stacy, Josie's eyes gradually turned red. He gently lifted his skirt and paid tribute to Evelyn and others. "Your generosity is like the sun in the sky. I think my aunt's soul will rest in peace under your guidance." Josie bowed deeply and thanked Burund. At the side, Art wanted to take the opportunity to take out the sacred weapon from his waist, but he was blocked by Barrett calmly. He said with a smile, "This is what the Lord God taught us. If you have time, if so, Miss Josie can come to my church and choose a cemetery for your aunt that she likes." Qiao 11 nodded, "Thank you again for the gift of God." After speaking, Qiao Qian glanced at Su Tong, and after seeing him nodding towards her, she bent over and bowed towards Evelyn and others to leave. This made Art beside him couldn't help but show a confused look on his face. "Didn't you say that you had agreed to use the holy weapon for testing?" Why did you let people leave? Ignore the question marks on Art's face. Evelyn took out a portfolio and handed it to Su Tong. After opening it, there was a parchment document inside, with a cross mark stamped in gold in the upper left corner of the document. The church has studied it many times. Due to your special nature, the church plans to let you follow us to the Vatican, but not now, after we finish what we are doing. Su Tong looked at the contract in his hand. This is a contract appointing himself as an honorary bishop. With this appointment, he is now a veritable bishop of the church. At the same time, prompts began to sound from the prop book. Your identity has been recognized by the church, and your reputation in the church has been improved again. You are given the temporary title, devotee. You have obtained bishop-level administrative authority and can mobilize any priest below the bishop to serve you. Please do not engage in behavior that damages the honor of the church, otherwise you will be punished in an unpredictable manner. Devotee, after activation, it will ignite your body at the cost of lifespan. It can increase your overall physical fitness by 20% in a short period of time, and all active skills add 1. Duration, 3 minutes. Hearing the reminder from the prop book, Su Tong raised his eyebrows slightly. He didn't expect that his second step of the plan would go so smoothly. Evelyn's words were not over yet. In addition, I heard that you took the initiative to chase monsters last night. This is a very dangerous behavior. However, considering your special physique, I hope you can enter the Inquisition to study for a period of time. That will be of great help to you. As soon as Evelyn said this, Su Tong waited for his second main task. Main Mission 2, Demon Hunting Assessment. As an excellent hunter, you must pass a complete set of demon hunting assessments to be considered successful. Mission Goal, kill 1 mid-level demon, or 3 low-level demons. If you can kill the high-level demon, you will get an additional reward. Task time, none. Intermediate demon, Su Tong felt a little regretful. If he had known earlier, he would have kept the insect girl. He nodded and smiled at Evelyn. This is exactly what I hoped for. Su Tong had actually been unhappy with the Inquisition for a long time. It was the best thing to let him go this time. I don't know why, but Art's heart suddenly skipped a beat when he heard the news. When he squinted and saw the smiling expression on Su Tong's face, this ominous premonition became even stronger. After explaining the matter clearly, Evelyn left in the carriage. As for Bishop Art and Bertrand, they were riding in black cars. Mr. Bishop, didn't you agree that Miss Jiaoqian is the only one in the hotel who has not done the sacred instrument induction? As soon as he got into the car, Art could not help but complain in a low voice. He took out the sacred vessels from his waist, but neither Archbishop Evelyn nor Bishop Barent mentioned this matter. Barent rolled his eyes at Art and said to himself, "You know nothing. There are some things that cannot be explained so clearly to this boy." He just said, "There is no hurry about this matter. Let's wait and talk about it later. In short, don't touch Miss Jiaoqian, otherwise an honorary bishop wants to avenge his confidant. We all old bones can't stop it." After saying this, Barent couldn't help but murmured in his heart, "Fortunately, both of them still have their virginity, otherwise they would be in trouble again." Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 522. After sending Evelyn away, Su Tong couldn't help but secretly rejoice while holding the deed. The second step in his plan was easier than he originally thought. In the final analysis, it is thanks to Archangel Michael. Without her blessing imprinted on his soul, even if he successfully integrates into the Morgan family, he can only be a door-to-door son-in-law and a vase. Even a business card. Although he has a lot of financial resources, Mr. Morgan will not let himself squander it. But the church is different. In this context where theocratic supremacy exists, possessing theocratic authority is simply a matter of reaching the sky in one step. What's more, as an honorary bishop, Even facing an archbishop like Evelyn, my status is only half a head shorter. But he was not in a daze because of this. On the contrary, Su Tong knew very well that his situation was still very bad. Whether it's another certified player, or... Just when Su Tong's eyes were flickering, Shar walked up to Su Tong, bowed slightly and said, "Master, Mrs. Enman called and said that she was supposed to come today, but there is a new piece of high-quality fabric in the store. She hopes that you can come to her store to customize it on the spot." Mrs. Enman? Su Tong raised his eyebrows slightly, as if he had remembered something. The last time Mr. Morgan talked about the ball, he proposed to change into a custom-made dress. At that time, Mr. Morgan seemed to mention Mrs. Enman and said that she was the best tailor. "Then let's go." After thinking of this, Su Tong nodded and said he would go now. Although the clothes prepared by Mr. Morgan fit well, they were not suitable for fighting. When he fought against the insect girl before, the clothes were torn in many places by himself. "Okay, Gandalf is already waiting outside the door." Shar looked outside the yard. From a distance, I could see outside the gate, where Gandalf's carriage was already guarding. Last time Su Tong gave him 100 solely and asked Gandalf to go home and rest for 2 days. Gandalf came early this morning. Shar originally wanted to go with him. After all, the details of the clothes were a matter of noble dignity, and he had to personally control many details. But Su Tong didn't think so. After all, what he wanted was not decent clothes, so he said, "No, I will go and come back by myself. In addition, Mr. Morgan, please help teach the new housekeeper. To be honest, it will take a few days. The lunch arrangements seemed a bit hectic, which I wasn't used to." Shar frowned when he mentioned the new butler. If the previous Angus could be considered a qualified butler, then the new young butler could not even be considered an amateur. I really don't know how Master Morgan could choose such a fool to be his housekeeper. "Okay, I'll try my best to teach him." Thinking that he and the young master would still need to live in the Morgan house for a while, Shar agreed without any difficulty. Su Tong bared his teeth and smiled, "Then I'll leave it to you." "It is my pleasure, master." Shar bowed slightly, but when he raised his head, Su Tong had already walked out of the courtyard gate and jumped on Gandalf's carriage. Woof! A dog's head poked out of the window, looking at Su Tong's retreating figure on the carriage. One hand grabbed its ear and pulled it back. "Quiet, Deli." Josie gently closed the window and pulled up the curtains until the light outside gradually disappeared in the room, then gently stroked Deli's head with her fingers. Sighing, "Deli, I know you miss Sister Kitty, but I can't kill him yet, at least not now. We still have a lot to do, and he will be our best cover." Woof! Deli lowered his head in grievance. Josie stood up and walked to the makeup mirror, and took out a pair of exquisite tarot cards from the secret room. The black tarot cards flashed strange ripples in the darkness. Josie placed the tarot cards neatly on the table and randomly picked one out. Flip over. It was a picture of a demon with a body and a bull's head, holding a long knife and piercing the chest of a young man. Josie picked up this tarot card, walked to the mirror in the room, started to twist and walk 4 steps, and whispered in her mouth, "Judge of hell, please listen to my call." In an instant, the dim room was gradually enveloped in a bloody halo. Deli, who was crawling in the corner, slowly raised his head. The evil and twisted figure reflected in the grey beast eyes was continuously enlarging in the room. Mrs. Amon's tailor shop is on Queen Street, the main road in Amontes. This is the most prosperous street in Amontes, famous for its shops, high-rise buildings, and of course the beggars on the roadside. This is also a consumer area where rich people gather, and the prices of items in the shops are several times higher than in other places. Even a cake may cost 1 sol. Gandalf held a pipe in his mouth and drove the carriage while telling Su Tong about his wonderful experiences in the past 2 days when he returned home. "Master Kevin, I listened to your words. After I went back, I took a nap. When I woke up, I went to the most famous restaurant, Solon Barbecue Restaurant, and had the most delicious meal. I swear, that was the best barbecue I've ever had. There is also the Shire Paradise, where the beauties are like angels on earth. You may not believe that with my wit and humor, I have successfully captured the heart of a beauty. Her name is Frodo, with a sexy figure, makes me want to stop until I am exhausted. Obviously, in these 2 days, Gandalf went on a mysterious journey that he had never seen before, and at the same time, he also squandered the 100 soldi given to him by Sutong. The carriage gradually stopped at the corner of the street. The words Amon Tailor Shop are written on the dark blue signboard. The so-called golden corner and silver border, the location of business is always the first priority. Often the opposite corner of the street is the place with the largest passenger flow and the most conspicuous place. In reality, this kind of place is often a geomantic treasure that large shopping malls must occupy. Mrs. Enman's location was in such a location. If she couldn't make a fortune every day, 1 month's rent would be enough to bankrupt her. But looking around, Mrs. Enman's shop was so quiet that not even a single person could be seen. Outside the gate, a sign stood at the door, "Do not enter unless invited." Obviously, Mrs. Enman's distribution route is not open to ordinary wealthy businessmen at all. Jingle. Sutong opened the door and the bell on the door rang. Behind the closet, a woman with long pink hair showed her head. After scanning Sutong up and down, she said in surprise, "Earl Kevin, you are younger and more handsome than I thought." Mrs. Enman looks very rich. She wears a light blue coat draped around her body. When paired with her long pink hair, she not only does not make people feel different, but also gives a youthful and energetic feeling. Mrs. Enman enthusiastically pulled Sutong into her shop. "I'm sorry, Earl Kevin, I should have come to the door in person, but the new materials in the shop can't withstand the bumps, so I can only ask you to come here and tailor it for you," Mrs. Enman said, slowly opening the door curtain in front of her, revealing a small room. The room was filled with various scissors, measuring tapes, and various tools that Sutong had never seen before. All kinds of novel fabrics were neatly placed there. It looks like it should be Mrs. Amon's workshop. "This time I plan to customize 3 sets of clothes for you, including your shoes." Mrs. Enman walked into the room and opened a box. "Here are the new leather materials I prepared for you." However, when Mrs. Enman turned around, she saw that Sutong did not walk in, but looked at the glass cabinet in front of her. "Are these shoes for sale? I like the design of these shoes very much." Sutong stared at the glass on the glass cabinet intently. Mrs. Enman turned around after hearing this, took out a roll of silk from the box, and said without looking back, "This pair of shoes is my most satisfying work. It has won me many awards. It is not for sale, but if you like it, I can customize a pair just for you." Sutong heard this but did not respond to Mrs. Enman. He just stretched out his hand with white gloves and gently wiped it on the glass. He even wiped a thin layer of dust on it. Seeing this, Sutong narrowed his eyelids and said with a meaningful sneer at the corner of his mouth, "That's it, that's really a pity." As he spoke, Sutong turned around and walked into the workroom as if nothing had happened. Mrs. Enman picked up the tape measure, opened it with both hands, and stared at Sutong's throat. "Let's start with the collar first." Sutong nodded and stretched his neck. Seeing the blue veins clearly visible on Sutong's fair skin, Mrs. Enman narrowed her eyelids. "Legend has it that only the blood of those ancient aristocrats can have blue blood. It seems that you are an undoubted aristocrat." As he spoke, he put the measuring tape on his neck. But at the moment she stretched out her hands, Sutong suddenly raised his hand and grabbed Mrs. Enman's wrist. "Blue blood is just because of the white skin. How could someone like you slip through the net in the 9-year compulsory education?" At the same time as Sutong Yuan's words came out, The red hellfire exploded on Su Tong's body. There will be more in the evening. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 523. MRS Enman was stunned for a moment, obviously not understanding the meaning of Su Tong's words, and the world in front of her eyes was instantly engulfed in a sea of fire. Boom! The fire of hell turned the entire studio into a high-temperature crematorium in an instant. Ah! With a scream, MRS Enman instantly turned into a walking torch. After struggling out of the workshop, she fell heavily to the ground and became silent. Under the fire of hell, in just a moment, the plump MRS Amon was burned beyond recognition, and oil even appeared on her body. All she had to do was sprinkle a handful of cumin and she was ready to serve. But Su Tong's attack did not stop there. Playing dead? I am much more professional than her. A sword energy burning with hellfire struck down vertically, aiming directly at MRS Enman's head. But an unexpected picture appeared. A hand tore from MRS Amon's chest, and a punch shattered the sword energy. Under the surging firelight, a gray-green cold light reflected on the arms, which were layers of dense scales. Immediately afterwards, MRS Enman's body began to be torn apart and made a click, click, click sound. In the flicker of firelight, a humanoid creature rose from her corpse. It looks a bit like a standing lizard, with not only thick limbs and body, but also a thick tail that slaps on the ground. How did you discover me? MRS Enman's eyes have turned into animal pupils, and her height of nearly 2 meters makes her look more like a giant, able to look down on Su Tong from a high position. Su Tong pointed to the glass cabinet next to MRS Enman. Since it is a beloved work and it is placed in such a conspicuous position, the owner should cherish the things inside very much. However, things like glass look very clean at first glance, but it is the most likely place to get dust, so in order to maximize the viewing value of this thing, cleaning the glass is a required course every day. MRS Enman was a little surprised when she heard this. But soon she started laughing. Although MRS Enman's memory was robbed, her living habits could not be changed. She had wiped this glass cabinet every day in the past few days, but then she gradually became too lazy to wipe it. I don't think there is any need to waste time on this. You want to be better than me, but I'm stronger than you. MRS Enman's tail suddenly curled up, rolled up the glass cabinet and threw it at Su Tong. If you like it, I'll give it to you. Su Tong turned aside to avoid the smashed glass, and MRS Enman had already rushed up. Without any skills, she only had a big fistful of scales and hit him directly on the head. MRS Amon is very satisfied with her lizard shape and firmly believes that it is impossible for a young player who has not completed the certification to injure herself. But what she never expected was that when Su Tong faced the incoming fist, he tiptoed, and then saw 4 white tails coming out from behind him. Please magic. This is a compulsory course for all disciples, but the difference is that as the leader of the hall, Su Tong does not need to shout slogans such as Fox Queen, please come to me. What a shame, I don't know why the fairies like this so much. With De Ya possessed, Su Tong's speed almost doubled. At the same time, the active skill of Colorful Playmaster is also activated. Colorful Trace, it consumes 12 script points. After activation, you will gain Colorful Step, which allows you to enter a semi-invisible state while moving and leave an afterimage to confuse the opponent. For a moment, with the afterimage passing by, Su Tong easily dodged MRS Enman's fist, but he did not continue to attack, but ran away. His own hellfire and sword energy have been blocked by MRS Enman in an understatement, which shows that this guy is a thick-skinned master. There is no need for him to go head-to-head with this kind of human shield. Even if he wins, the result will be more losses than gains. Besides, regardless of his status as an honorary bishop, he would only make this choice if he fought her tooth and nail. Mrs. Enman seemed to be aware of Su Tong's thoughts. The lizard face spit out a tongue as long and slender as a snake's tongue and laughed. "Since I'm going to kill you, how can I let you run out? Fool, let me peel off your skin slowly. Such delicate skin can give me a few new pieces of underwear." Seemingly confirming Mrs. Enman's words, Su Tong found that he could not rush out of the store. He could clearly see through the glass that people outside were walking past the door talking and laughing, but with such a big movement, they didn't even notice it at all. Seeing this, Su Tong frowned slightly, and a little fluorescent light appeared in his eyes. After the life icon was activated, it was discovered that the store had a clear disconnect with the outside world. It seemed that the space here had no connection with the outside world. This is not the virtual reality of the Grand Master, but more like some kind of formation barrier. However, with the help of Minji and Kimin, Su Tong also noticed something different. Just in the four corners of the store, there were obviously different and strange fluctuations. Although he didn't know what they were, they should be related to this enchantment. There are relationships. You can't run away. Mrs. Enman rushed forward. It was obviously a big lizard, but it gave people the oppressive feeling of a giant King Kong. Seeing Mrs. Enman's two pairs of iron fists coming down, Su Tong could only dodge sideways, but at the same time he continued to hit Mrs. Enman with hellfire. However, the strange thing is that the all-burning hellfire was quickly extinguished once it touched the scales on Mrs. Enman's skin. Not only that, Su Tong also discovered that Mrs. Enman's originally blue-gray scales had turned reddish at this moment. "Can you absorb my hellfire?" Su Tong steadied himself and looked at Mrs. Enman in surprise. "Hey, I was discovered by you." Mrs. Enman grinned widely. In this form, her defense power was outrageous. Not only was her defense power extremely strong, she could also absorb a large amount of attribute damage to enhance her own strength. To put it simply, it means that you can maximize physical resistance and magic resistance, and you can also superimpose a strength increase for yourself. However, she was still a little surprised. Many people who fought against her often took a long time to discover the secret. Some people even found out the secret and were already helpless. Sometimes, simplicity to the extreme is also powerful. Su Tong also had to say that Mrs. Enman's abnormal defense was simply the nemesis of someone like him who relied on his skills to burst out damage. He is even more difficult to deal with than the guy who airborne in Master's script. There's a price to pay. However, Su Tong suddenly lowered his voice and asked coldly. This sentence made Mrs. Enman startled, and then she immediately sneered, "The price? Your life is the price." As she spoke, Mrs. Enman's body began to expand again, but it was not her entire body that expanded, but her arms. I saw that my arms, which were originally as thick as adult calves, had suddenly expanded in a circle, and their arms could almost hang on the ground. "It's a pity that such good leather as yours can't be used as my collection." Mrs. Enman showed her sharp teeth and began to slowly rotate her arms. Su Tong glared. He was so familiar with this boxing technique. "I believe anyone who has had a fight will." The famous Wang Bakwan. As the saying goes, as long as you are tough enough, all skills are useless. Speak human words and work miracles with great force. Mrs. Amon obviously understands this truth. The simplest method was used to maximize the power, and the number of men who died from this move was lost to count. After every time, those pretentious guys are often smashed into pulp by their own fists, yes, as delicate as fish balls. As Mrs. Enman swung her arms, huge air currents followed in the room. Even the hellfire in the workshop behind Su Tong was absorbed by this airflow. For a moment, Mrs. Enman's arms became redder and redder. At first glance, they looked like two pairs of huge Hot Wheels. Mrs. Enman felt that it was almost done, and started to approach Su Tong step by step with a sinister smile on her lips. Every step she took was not big, and everything around her was torn into pieces wherever she went. The space of this shop is very small. If it were placed in the wild, this little guy might escape with the advantage of speed, and I really wouldn't be able to do anything against him. But in such a small space, where could he hide even if he was possessed by Hermes? Faced with MRSNman's pressing steps, Su Tong could only retreat. Headmaster, use reality and fiction. De Ye reminded in a low voice that the power between reality and reality can extend the space in front of him indefinitely, and then use the Yin soldiers to hold this guy back. No one is perfect, and no jade is perfect. The stronger her body is, the weaker her soul will be. As long as the master can find a way to make her freeze for a second, I will have a way to severely damage her soul. De Ye is not a freeloader either. As a Xiener, she naturally has the methods of the Xian family. Su Tong ignored it and stared directly at MRSNman's arm. Run. Ha ha ha, run quickly. MRSNman's eyes became more and more ferocious. What she liked to see most was the prey huddled in the corner, watching the living space shrink little by little, with a final expression of despair. For this reason, she gave her trap a very appropriate name, the Millstone of Despair. At this time, a flash of light suddenly flashed through Su Tong's eyes, and he rushed towards MRSNman. He's crazy. This move not only shocked MRSNman, but also De Ye. Facing MRSNman's surprised look, Su Tong just sneered, "You are too stupid." I saw him taking out a gourd from the prop book, which was the cold iron gourd. During the last trip to Yin Yang Cave, the energy of cold iron gourd was also replenished on the tower. Although it was not fully charged, there was no problem in releasing the skill several times. The mouth of the gourd was opened and pointed at MRSNman. Su Tong's face showed a joking look, "Do you dare to agree if I call you?" MRSNman was shocked. She seemed to have heard of similar magical skills and instinctively wanted to hide back. But instead of the terrible suction coming out of the gourd as she expected, it instead shot a ball of white and cold stuff on her face. Next update before 12 p.m. tonight. Infinite script killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 524. The biting cold air hit her face, causing MRSNman's vision to turn white. At this time she heard Su Tong's voice, "I'll shoot you if you don't agree. Bastard." Hearing this, MRSNman's chest heaved a sigh of relief, and she recalled Su Tong's words when she did it. She was ridiculed and humiliated like this again and again, and anyone else would go crazy. But at this moment, MRSNman felt a strange feeling on her arm. First there was an itch, a heartbreaking itch, from the base of her arms to the tips of her fingers. It was so irritating that it made her go crazy. And immediately afterwards, the heartbreaking stabbing pain hit. Kaka kaka. There was a crisp popping sound, like popcorn thrown into the pot, crackling. Immediately afterwards, MRSNman was horrified to see that her arm began to deform. The originally delicate and shiny scales exploded rapidly, and then with a harsh tearing sound, the arm exploded directly. Boom. Blood and broken scales splattered across MRSNman's face. She didn't seem to understand what happened, but Su Tong rushed to her in a daze. "I told you to believe in science, idiot. The characteristic of hellfire is that it burns nothing, and it will still ignite even in water. The ice wind blade blown out by the ice gourd is mixed with a large amount of frost water vapor. When the two are combined, they will produce a more powerful explosion. Isn't it because of this characteristic that I often combine embers and cold iron gourds? The principle is almost the same." Just when Su Tong Xiao's voice fell and MRSNman had not recovered from the pain, a fox with 4 tails jumped on Su Tong's shoulder. The fox is covered in white fur, but it is only the size of a cat. What is surprising is that it sits cross-legged like a human with its front paws together. The furry little paws can actually make a heart-shaped handprint. Charming soul magic, Jen. Ya muttered silently in her heart, her green eyes bursting with fluorescence. Mrs. Enman's head was buzzing for a moment, and then her whole body felt a sense of elation, as if her arms that had been exploded no longer hurt, and the world in front of her began to blur. Looking at Mrs. Enman, who was stiff and motionless, Su Tong couldn't help but secretly breathe a sigh of relief. In fact, what he hates most is this kind of rough-skinned and thick-skinned human shield. Especially for Mrs. Enman, who has high resistance, high defense, and extremely terrifying strength. If I don't use any means, the price I have to pay to kill her will probably be high. To be able to kill Mrs. Enman like this can only be said that she is too self-righteous. Looking at Mrs. Enman, who fell into a deep sleep, Su Tong stretched out his hand and summoned Fortune, which transformed into an 8-sided sword. At this moment, the scales on Mrs. Enman's body have cracked. It is not difficult to kill her, just. He slowly raised the sword in his hand and aimed it at Mrs. Enman's heart. Rest in peace. Su Tong's eyes revealed murderous intent, and he raised his sword to stab him. But just when the sword was stabbing halfway, Su Tong suddenly felt a bad feeling in his heart. The sudden strange feeling was like a cold hand grabbing his throat, which made Su Tong's chest suffocate. Transform into a shield. As soon as he finished speaking, Fa Cai completed his transformation almost instantly. Although his intelligence was not very high, it gave him the ability to completely obey orders and not need to think. After the golden shield blocked Su Tong's face, a terrifying force directly knocked Su Tong away. Boom! I don't know how many things were knocked down, but Su Tong felt like he had lost all feeling in his arms. When he looked again, he found that the shield of fortune transformation had been twisted into a twisted ball by the huge force, just a little bit away from being smashed through. Headmaster! Look, this guy is a monster. Ya made a sound of surprise. Not only had the other party released his charm, but he also let out an enchanting laugh. He 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 he, ha 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 ha. The laughter gradually became sharper, until it became more and more crazy. Su Tong put down his fortune, and then he saw Mrs. Enman's body shaking in the laughter. Then her body began to split open, and the thick tail behind her fell off. Tear it apart. There was only a sound of flesh tearing, and the big lizard in front of him was like a deflated doll, falling limply to the ground. Instead, there was another face. She has the face of a woman, but her body is like a praying mantis. However, the two thick front claws are not sickle-shaped like a praying mantis, but instead resemble two round sledgehammers. Obviously, the attack just now was an attack from the hammerhead. Can I still change my form? This time it was Su Tong's turn to be shocked. He knew that certified players were difficult to kill, but he didn't expect them to be so difficult. It's not a change of form, it's just that you broke a layer of my skin. Mrs. Enman stared at Su Tong with resentful eyes and explained, my advanced root belongs to the biological evolution series. You can change your form by changing your skin every time. Little guy, you are very strong. Su Tong shook his arm, feeling as if the whole arm was about to be dislocated. Hearing Mrs. Enman's words, Su Tong could only say helplessly, are all certified players so difficult? If so, I would rather fail the certification and go just hang out as an ordinary player. Not really, it's just that you're not strong enough. Mrs. Enman stared at Su Tong and told the truth, then shook the pair of bone hammers in her hands, hit him again. No, I surrender. You can come up with a condition. Let's talk about it first. I have no special hobbies. Su Tong spread his hands and started to cheat. He said he wanted to surrender, but he didn't mean anything good. In fact, he could see that Mrs. Enman no longer had the murderous intention at this point. We have already fought against each other once, and if we fight against each other again, we will fight hard. Even if the script world this time is a killing script, the theme is the killing between players. But there is no benefit at all. Who among us will risk his life? In the end, if you are not careful, you will be tricked by others, and it will not be worthwhile for anyone. The advantage of joining our team temporarily and cooperating with our actions is that in this script world, we will get a share of the benefits from you. MRS made conditions. Deal, send team invitation. This time Su Tong didn't hesitate at all and nodded directly in agreement, so cheerfully that MRS Anman even wondered if this guy was playing tricks on her. Don't think too much. You are all here as a team. What other choice do I have? I won't suffer a loss by joining you, but the prerequisite is that you don't treat me like a pig. Humph, you're overthinking it? Breeding teams are not popular among certified players. If we find out that you are a breeder, you won't survive. Su Tong's heart sank when he heard this. He was not worried about himself, but thought of Yang Zixuan. But it is not convenient to pursue further questions on this issue at this time. After Su Tong nodded and said he had no problem, Anman was silent for a moment and said, "You go back first. After 9 o'clock tomorrow night, you can come to the Wendy's bar on Lingtu Avenue. Our captain will contact you then." MRS Anman told Su Tong an agreed place. Haha, no. Su Tong decisively rejected MRS Anman's proposal without even thinking about it. Just do it once by yourself, and forget it if you keep coming. If it turns into a group fight next time, I won't have anywhere to cry. Although this possibility is unlikely, after all, I will be prepared next time. For example, bring a few more people with me so that they can report to the church at any time. As an honorary bishop, I believe that I can hire a big boss to save me no matter what. For example, the judge until last time seemed to be quite strong. At worst, you can pull them together to finish. But his life is his own, and Su Tong is not that big-hearted about handing his life over to others. Then what do you mean? MRS Anman looked a little unhappy. In fact, a thought flashed through her mind. If it happened again, and only 3 people in the team needed to take action, this guy would be meat on the chopping board, unable to fly without wings. If you can't make the decision, just let your captain make the decision. I have given you my sincerity. In addition, you may already know that I am an honorary bishop. This means that in the future, I will be a high-level church official and can provide you with conveniences very many. MRS Anman looked at Su Tong sideways. This sentence could be interpreted as having 2 meanings. It can provide a lot of help, but it can also cause them endless trouble. Su Tong stood up, dusted himself off, took out a gold pound and put it on the table. This was borrowed from Mr. Morgan, a gold pound, worth about 15 pounds in banknotes. Ordinarily, even a top tailor like MRS Aman would not need so much money. Of course, this money is just a drop in the bucket for Mr. Morgan, no, maybe not even a drop in the bucket. But Su Tong said instead, "This is my deposit. I will make 2 sets of casual clothes according to my size. There is no need to measure the size." Anman looked at the gold pound that Su Tong threw carelessly on the table and curled his lips. "I know, the clothes will be delivered to your home in 2 days. Then he said, "As for your conditions, I can go back and ask the captain. This is not a difficult matter. We will inform you then." As she spoke, her body gradually returned to MRS Anman's original appearance, and then she patted the wall behind her. Suddenly, the space in front of her began to distort, shrinking and fading like a tide. When this twisted space slid past Su Tong, the light in front of his eyes brightened, and the air became cooler. When he looked again, he was still standing in front of MRS Anman's shop. The shops that had been destroyed by the 2 men have actually returned to their original appearance. It seemed that the barrier just now seemed to have entered the recreated space without anyone noticing it from the moment he walked in the door. Before the barrier completely disappeared, Mrs. Enman stretched out her arm and took out the gold pound Su Tong dropped on the table. The heavy weight is indeed the most valuable currency. This 1 gold pound is enough to cover the income of her shop for half a month. Thinking of this, Mrs. Enman couldn't help but murmured in a low voice, "Huh, you are a soft rice man." Although the voice was low, Su Tong, who was standing in front of the door, listened very carefully. He looked back at Mrs. Enman, pursed his lips and said with a smile, "Actually, I am an actor." After saying that, Su Tong opened the door and walked out. Watching Su Tong leave, Mrs. Enman cursed secretly, "It seems that no one is the same, but why are you the son-in-law who came to the house? I am going to do it to make people sick of chicken." Mrs. Enman couldn't help but think of her original identity arranged by the script world, which was actually the owner of a roast chicken restaurant. It was annoying to think about it. Some people say that asking for a monthly ticket is too Buddhist. Only a 10,000-word update qualifies me to ask for a monthly ticket. Today is the 4th update, and the number of words has not shrunk. Please ask for a monthly ticket, a recommendation ticket, anything is fine, come on, come on. Infinite script killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 525. Master, you don't look well? What happened? On the carriage back, Gandalf looked back at Su Tong and saw that his complexion was a little pale and his clothes had been torn several times. He couldn't help but frown and thought to himself, is it Mrs. Enman's bestiality? Su Tong didn't say anything. His face was indeed ugly. The blow from that old lady after her second transformation made his internal organs churn, and now he can't even breathe anymore. In addition, it was daytime again, and the sun was shining on him, making him feel uncomfortable all over. After thinking for a while, Su Tong asked Gandalf, "Gandalf, don't go back yet. Do you know of any interesting places nearby?" I thought Gandalf would definitely say that it must be the Roma girl in such and such an alley. But to Su Tong's surprise, Gandalf actually fell silent after hearing this question. "Hey, you talk about so many fun things every day, but now we are silent." Because. Gandalf hesitated to speak, and finally blushed and muttered in a low voice, "Sending Snow White cheese like yours to the mouths of those bitches, such an evil thing, will make my soul feel uneasy." Gandalf thought of those slutty rum girls, who usually faced rough guys like them. Suddenly seeing a boy like the young master, who was as finely crafted as an angel, I am afraid that all of them could not help but spread their arms. Their big mouths pounced on him. That picture. Well, it's quite exciting to think about it. Ha ha ha. Su Tong was amused by Gandalf. I mean, is there a market selling strange items, or a market or something like that? My current state is not suitable for me to go back. It would be better to take a walk outside to relax. When your dark constitution starts to take effect at night, the injuries on your body will be able to recover in a short time. Oh. Gandalf was relieved, thought for a while and then said, "There is an interesting place, but you need to change into some clothes first." Medium rare steak, paired with a bottle of red wine, and a weak candlelight flickered on the table. But this is not a romantic candlelight dinner. For some people, it is even a terrible nightmare. While Andrei was enjoying the food in front of him, the screams in the cell became more miserable. Eating in the cell was Andrei's favorite project. Especially those screams, to him, they were more like a beautiful symphony, which whetted his appetite. At this time Andrei raised his hand to signal for silence. With just a simple gesture, the entire cell instantly fell into silence, and even the prisoners on the execution rack had their mouths tightly covered. I heard footsteps coming from behind the cell. "Andrei, how long are you going to stay in my cell?" Underneath the hoarse voice, a face of vicissitudes of life was revealed. It was Inquisitor Untu, and his words were full of displeasure. After all, this was the cell of the Inquisition, not his dining room. Hey, is it difficult for you to take in a homeless old man? Faced with Untu's question, Andre responded with a smile. You can live in the church, that's where you belong. Like Evelyn? Come on, I've had enough of living in that kind of place, or living here makes me feel more like home. Andre responded with a half smile. Untu was expressionless in front of him, whatever you want. But the will of the church has been passed on. There is no accident. Soon the honorary bishop will come to the Inquisition to study. Since you are so keen to stay here, this matter will be handed over to you. Here you go. Andre's expression gradually became serious after hearing this. Honorary bishop, this is really interesting. I understand. Leave this matter to me. In addition, I hope you don't forget that I am not here for a vacation. I still have no idea about the witch coven. I hope you can speed things up. Untu didn't respond, turned around and walked out of the cell. Seeing his leaving figure, Andre put his fingers on his forehead and whispered to himself, Honorary bishop, didn't anyone tell this little guy that honors are often given to dead people? After saying that, he lowered his eyes and continued to taste the food on the plate. Suddenly he realized that something was missing. He raised his eyebrows and looked at the arrester responsible for the execution. The divine catcher's face turned slightly pale, and he hurriedly stepped forward and apologized. I covered him too tightly just now, the prisoner is already dead. It turned out that the prisoner was too nervous and worried that the prisoner's screams would disturb the conversation between the bishop and the judge, so he used too much force and suffocated the prisoner to death. It doesn't matter. Andre put down his knife and fork and raised his hand solemnly, the Lord's light will forgive all his sins. As he spoke, a milky white magic circle rose up under Andre's feet, and a white light shrouded the prisoner's body. The prisoner's eyelashes trembled slightly, and then he let out a low whine, and he was actually resurrected. Not only was he resurrected, but the wounds on his body were also restored to the original state. Such a magical scene made the magicians look at each other. The art of prayer is a top blessing art that can only be mastered by church bishop level figures. It is said that even the royal family of the empire are often on the verge of bankruptcy if they want to ask for the archbishop's prayers and blessings. But at this moment, Andre actually blessed such a precious prayer technique on a prisoner. This made everyone feel incredible, and at the same time, they heard Andre say, "Go on, my steak is about to get cold." "Master, this is the largest market in Amherst." The carriage moved forward slowly, but the speed was as slow as a snail in the crowd. The only good thing was that the horse would slowly follow the crowd, and Gandalf, as the coachman, could fish openly. It was just killing time anyway, and Sutong didn't care about the speed of the carriage. He glanced at the black people on the street. Everyone was tightly bound by hemp ropes, kneeling on the ground one by one, like neatly arranged goods, waiting for the guests. They didn't even have a fig leaf on their bodies. You can see some women passing by, often covering their faces with fans, aiming their eyes at the crotches of these black men, and letting out a burst of harsh laughter among each other. Gandalf had his own opinion about these black slaves. Don't pity these black devils. They are an uncivilized race and are only worthy of growing watermelons in the fields. Sutong did not comment on this. The market is huge and the things inside are all kinds of strange. But it mainly focuses on handicrafts. After all, Amantes is the second largest city in the empire and the largest industrial production area. Most of the expensive industrial items are sold here. If that's all, then this place is just a building materials market at most, with nothing worth going in to see. After all, the master's house has been built. But the reason why Gandalf, a local snake, brought Sutong to this place was because these were things outside the market. There were many shady things for sale in the market. Thranduil perfume shop. Gandalf said with a thief expression, "This is the best perfume shop in the entire Amantes. It is said that his perfume is enough to drive girls crazy." Gandalf naturally wanted to buy a bottle and give it to Miss Josie. Interesting. Su Tong looked at the perfume shop, but instead of understanding Gandalf's hint, he saw strange ripples flashing in the perfume shop. What happened to Mrs. Enman just now made him realize the danger of this certification script. If he is not careful, he may die without a complete body. So even when he came to this market, Su Tong did not forget to open the Minjian Kimen. With the help of the Minjian Kimen, he discovered many interesting things. For example, this perfume shop in front of me. Wait for me here, I'll go in and take a look. He jumped out of the carriage, opened the door and walked in. Although it is a perfume shop, there is no smell of perfume at all when you enter. There are a wide variety of perfumes on the shelves. The price tag below also explains why the business of this store is so deserted. A seemingly inconspicuous bottle of pink perfume actually costs £1. At this price, I could probably buy 10 bottles of other brands of perfume without any problem. But here it's just ordinary shelf goods. And the prices of perfumes placed on glass display cases are even more eye-catching. Basically, the prices start at £10, which is enough to keep out those petty bourgeoisie families. Behind the display cabinet, a young man noticed someone entering the door. He raised his head with half-closed eyes. It was not until he saw Su Tong that a trace of shock appeared in his eyes. He frowned and said, "Leave as soon as possible. There is nothing you want here." Su Tong ignored it and instead lay on the counter, looking up and down at the perfumes in the display cabinet in front of him. "I want this bottle." After hearing Su Tong's words, the young man's face became even more impatient. He put down the book in his hand and stood up with an unhappy expression. "I'll say it again, if you don't leave, I will notify the Inquisition." Su Tong raised his head and tilted his neck and said, looking at the young man, "No, you can't." "I definitely will." Being looked at by Su Tong's scrutinizing eyes made Luke very unhappy, and he even put his hand on the phone beside him. To make it easier for residents to report, the phone had a dedicated red dial key that, after turning it twice, would connect the phone to the Inquisition. At this moment Luke has already turned once. "Can you tell me about this bottle of perfume? I'm very curious about its ingredients. Can you tell me about it?" Su Tong pointed to the bottle of dark red perfume in the display cabinet, priced at £3,000. "This perfume has a unique name, Love Is Not Available." Luke's face instantly turned red when he heard this. He stepped forward and grabbed Su Tong's collar, lowering his voice and saying, "Don't come here to cause trouble, or I will make you understand what regret means. Get out of here." As he spoke, Luke raised his hand and punched Su Tong in the face, sending Su Tong flying to the ground. He was also stunned. His fist was not fast, and the guy in front of him should be able to avoid it. Su Tong rubbed his face, stood up from the ground, and then walked back to Luke. Not only did his face not look angry at all, but he calmly took out the letter of appointment that Evelyn had given him from his arms, then slapped it on his forehead, pointed to the golden seal of the church on it, and said in his mouth he let out a sneer, "Brother, you are in trouble. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 526. Luke looked at the shining golden church seal and was instantly stunned. Then I took another look at the content above. Hiss. For a moment, Luke couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. When he looked at Su Tong again, he couldn't help but feel hairy all over his body. That small face with delicate features was as wonderful as a Sichuan opera with a different face. I didn't mean it, I thought you. Su Tong took off the book of resignation, suddenly stretched out his hand, pressed the phone on the table in his hand, and slowly turned the red dial button on it with his fingers. Luke panicked when he saw this. Attacking a church member is a felony. Attacking the bishop was basically a death sentence, and the people of the Inquisition would make him realize what it was like to live worse than death. What makes Luke even more panicked is that it is not just himself, but the entire clan's industry, which may also be uprooted by the church. Whether it was intentional or not, you'd better explain it to the judge. Su Tong said and was about to turn the dial button on the phone again. Don't want. Luke panicked and quickly grabbed Su Tong's hand. Please, I can do whatever you want. Faced with the pleading look Luke gave him, the coldness on Su Tong's face gradually faded, and the corners of his mouth slowly raised to reveal a smile. Gradually, the smile on his face became brighter and brighter, and he burst into laughter. Luke didn't know whether to laugh along or. Just when he was at a loss, Su Tong let go of his hand on the phone and narrowed his eyes. Look, this is what regret feels like. As he said this, he took out his handkerchief and wiped away the blood from the corner of his mouth where Luke had smashed it, and then he smashed his mouth. Your fist is quite strong. I'm sorry, Lord Bishop. It's all my fault. I'm willing to make any compensation. Luke didn't know how to describe his bad mood for a moment, so he could only keep apologizing, hoping that the young bishop in front of him would be lenient. I saw Su Tong waving his hand. Compensation? Forget it. Although you are an airport, I am still stuck on the gender issue. You have no chance. Luke obviously didn't understand what Su Tong meant. Su Tong pointed to the perfume in the display cabinet. Can you introduce your works to me now? After hearing Su Tong's words, Luke woke up as if from a dream. He quickly took out the perfume from under the display cabinet and placed it in front of Su Tong. The liquid in this bottle of perfume showed an alluring red color, but under the observation of Su Tong's life icon, he found that this bottle of perfume seemed to have unusual and mysterious power. Not just this bottle, there are others, but the strength is different. This is not my work, it is the masterpiece of my sister Ashina. What you see now is that the color of this bottle of perfume is a strange bright red, but it is not a dye, but blood, which comes from a dark forest. There is something called the scented deer, and the perfume has special magical effects that can delay human aging. Luke hesitated and pushed the perfume in front of Su Tong. Su Tong looked at him. What do you mean? I think it seems to be more in line with your temperament. I mean, it is yours, Lord Bishop. Su Tong's face suddenly turned cold when he heard this, and there was a chill in his eyes, which made Luke's heart skip a beat, and he had a bad premonition. Foolish, I'll kill you. This store belongs to me. Hearing this, Luke suddenly stiffened and even instinctively wanted to resist. Su Tong even saw that the strong green ripples on Luke's body seemed to resonate with every bottle of perfume here. Is it magic? Just when Luke was stiff and didn't know what to do, an old man's voice came from behind Luke. Luke, you neglected our distinguished guest, please apologize, kid. Hearing this kind voice, Luke's tense heartstrings relaxed. Su Tong was even more shocked. He followed the sound and found that an old man was slowly walking down from the attic, but his life icon could not see him. Very strong. Su Tong stirred up a storm in his heart. His life icon was definitely like a cheating device. But in front of this old man, it lost its effect. It's not like Grandma Li who hides her destiny, but she is truly and completely immune to the prying eyes of the Kimen. If you look at it with the life icon, you will look like a completely transparent person. Harmony between man and nature? After an idea popped into Su Tong's mind, he was also startled. There are 3 flowers on the head and the 5 chi are facing the UN. This is the state of great attainment of the ascetic. One further step will lead to the perfection of immortality. From then on, heaven and man will become one, and people will enter the Tao without leaving a trace. Since there is no trace to be found, his own life icon will naturally not be able to see him. At least the current life icon cannot see him. As for whether the highest level life Ikemen can see him, Su Tong doesn't know. Su Tong was really surprised that such a legendary existence suddenly appeared. I didn't expect that in such a messy market, there is really a crouching tiger, hidden dragon. The old man walked to the display cabinet with a smile on his face, patted Luke on the shoulder next to him, and signaled him to relax and make a pot of tea. Then he pushed the bottle of perfume back to Su Tong. The original price is £60. I'll give you a discount of £50. Such a fairy-like old man was not vague at all when he talked about business. In fact, Su Tong was angry because Luke regarded himself as rubbish for blackmailing others. As he said, if he really wanted to blackmail someone, he could arrest him into the Inquisition with just one phone call. The things here were, you can take as much as you want. Since he didn't do this, Luke should understand his attitude. Just throw a mere £60 into your arms and tell yourself to get out? Anyone would be unhappy if this kind of thing happened. Do you need your money? If I'm happy, I'll punch you. If I'm unhappy, I'll make you kneel on the ground and call you daddy. Su Tong played with the perfume and nodded, I bought it. He readily took out £4 and placed them on the table. The old man quickly took out the change from under the table, £2 notes plus 60 thalers, which added up to a bag full of change. The old man was a little embarrassed and said, sorry, there have been no openings in recent times. Su Tong took the money and threw it into the prop book along with the perfume. I took a look at the perfume entry. Blood rose perfume. Luxury products made from the essence extracted from the mysterious natural power of the druid and combined with ancient techniques. Each time the user sprays a small amount on the body, the user's recovery effect will be temporarily increased by 20%, and the user's physical fitness will be increased by 5%. Duration, 3 hours. Repeated spraying is ineffective. Su Tong took a look and saw that it was really a luxury product. This thing can actually have such an effect. However, such things are not so easy to obtain. First of all, you must have money. Even for certified players, in this script world, it is very difficult to quickly obtain wealth. Robbery may come quickest. But those who die are the quickest. Even certified players will probably not have an easy end when faced with the pursuit of the church and the entire empire. Otherwise, they are making money by virtue of their status in the script world. Maybe this one would be very safe, but unless you are an administrative official at the level of a mayor, even a bishop cannot afford that much money. Don't forget, the finances of local churches are constrained by the local administrative system. Otherwise, how could Bishop Barrent, with his status, attend the banquet invitation of a rich man like Mr. Morgan? In the final analysis, it's not that Mr. Morgan gave too much. If he casually spends £60 to buy a bottle of perfume, this can be regarded as a luxury product from the perspective of the natives of the script world and players like them. After the transaction was completed, Su Tong looked squarely at the old man in front of him. He has a long dark brown beard and white hair hanging casually on his shoulders, and only a coarse cloth robe is draped on his body. He really looks like a fairy. Let's talk upstairs. I believe the tea has been brewed. The old man invited Su Tong to go upstairs. When we arrived at the attic, we saw that the decoration of the attic was also very simple, with 2 wooden beds and a dining table, which were simpler than those of ordinary working-class families. It's hard to believe that this is actually a luxury store. But although it was a little simpler, the place was extremely clean, not even a speck of dust could be seen on the ground, and Luke had already made tea. After the old man sat down, he formally introduced himself to Su Tong. My full name is Ray Bradley, and I am the great elder of the Druid section. You can call me Lay. This shop is the property of our Druid sect and the main source of income for our village. Druids? Does the church allow it? Su Tong was really surprised. He didn't expect that other sects could exist under the rule of the church. Facing Su Tong's doubts, Luke on the side cast suspicious glances. I thought to myself, you are a bishop after all, but you don't even know this? This is too ridiculous. But then I thought about it, a person with a dark aura all over his body could become a bishop. What could be more ridiculous than this? Leia looked at Su Tong with confusion. The church does not allow other sects to exist, but it is still very tolerant of native sections. Druids are an ancient native section. The most important thing is that Druids only spread within their own ethnic group and do not preach to outsiders. The church does not have the power to expel or kill such native sects. Of course, suppression is inevitable. For example, native sects are not allowed to persuade the public to raise funds through fundraising, nor are they allowed to join emerging industries or invest in national industries, etc. To sum it up in one sentence, we will tolerate you in principle but block you in policy. Therefore, the native sect can only rely on some businesses to make money for the village. Oh, that's how it is. After hearing Lei's explanation, Su Tong put the appointment letter on the table again and gave it to Lei to check. He then said that he had just joined the church and did not understand the church's practices. Lei looked at the time on the appointment letter, which was today, and couldn't help being surprised. What makes Lei even more curious is how someone with such pure dark power could have such a pure soul. His eyes seemed to be able to see through the body and see the mark from the archangel on Su Tong's essential soul. Of course, he could also see the devil's heart in Su Tong's heart. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 527. I was just curious. I came in to take a look and buy some gifts for my friends. I didn't expect that this place would be an industry owned by the Druid section. Your perfume is very special. If there is something better, I would also like to buy it. The previous battle with MRS Enman made Su Tong sensitively aware that there was a whole team of certified players behind MRS Enman. This is what I fear most. Just MRS Enman made herself so embarrassed. If a whole group of certified players killed her, she might really end up in Lilith's iron cauldron or into the arms of an angel in heaven. MRS Enman did not continue to kill people. On the one hand, she found that she was not so easy to solve. On the other hand, she also took a fancy to her identity advantage. And they need to cooperate on their own. Since I can't improve to the point where I can compete with them in a short period of time, I must consider using external forces. For example, the Archdruid in front of him, who is a man and nature, is a good candidate to win over. Is this? Lei thought for a moment in embarrassment and said, these perfumes are made from the essence of animals and plants, and their lives are integrated into these perfumes, so I cannot give you satisfactory convenience in terms of price. Druids who advocate nature are not allowed to harm animals and nature excessively. Even if they are trying to make a living, the amount of essence they take in each time will not be much. Coupled with the complicated production process, Ray had to make this clear up front. This is natural. The smell of money can never be compared with these moving works of art. There is no objection to the price. I only ask for quality. It's not spending your own money anyway, so there's nothing to feel bad about. Mr. Morgan donated at least 30 to 40,000 pounds to the church every year, but even so, he didn't get what he wanted. I can give Mr. Morgan more, and this little money is not a big deal. Well, I can't refuse your generosity, but some special perfume needs to be brought from the village. If you don't mind, come back in about a week. Then it's settled. Su Tong stood up. I have other things to do, so I can't stay here for a long time. I will bring enough gold pounds to the store to inspect the goods in a week. May nature be with you. May the holy light bless you. After the two said a brief farewell, Su Tong stood up and left. After all, this is the first time the two of them have met, and both sides don't know the basics of the situation, and everything they say is nonsense. Speak less and you will make less mistakes. If you speak too much, you will make mistakes. This is the most basic ability to interact with others. As the number of transactions increases in the future, the relationship will naturally become more familiar. Master, why did it take you so long to get in? Gandalf looked at Sutong, who got back on the carriage, and couldn't help asking. There are a lot of things to choose from, but there is not much available here. Come back next week. After speaking, he glanced at the time and saw that it was still early. Let's find a place to have something to eat. Master, I remember there was a pork chop shop in front of me that was very good and tasted great. The portion was large and filling. But can you accept the pork chop? If Shar heard what Gandalf said here, he would definitely reject the proposal sternly, and then tell Sutong earnestly that as a noble, steak is the basic card. Pork is only for common people to eat. So this is also the reason why I am determined not to allow Shar to follow. Honesty is valuable, but the free price is higher. If you can manage enough, you can throw away both. Besides, the appointment letter in my hand is the best card. With Sutong's affirmation, Gandalf felt relieved, and the two of them walked slowly along the street in the carriage. Elder, aren't the goods in our warehouse downstairs? Seeing Sutong walking away on the attic glass, Luke asked Lay. Lay took a sip of tea and looked at Luke's childlike appearance. He couldn't help but sigh. If Anna hadn't been pregnant and had to return to the village, he really didn't want Luke to be in charge of this perfume shop. This immature little guy still has a long way to go before he wants to become a future druid. Honor is like a hero's tombstone. Only the dead can receive the highest honor. Obviously the church accepted his soul, but not his body. Let's wait and see. If he can be alive in a week, we can have a chat. It's necessary to go down. A week later. Luke seemed to have thought of something and asked in surprise, do you mean the witch coven? It's not just the witch coven. I have a very strong premonition recently that makes me very uneasy. This city is shrouded in something. If there are no problems in a week, we will go back after clearing out the goods on hand. Go to the mountains. Ray looked out the window. You can vaguely see a vague shadow in the sky outside, holding a sickle and hovering over the city. Obviously, the god of death has set his sights on this city, but it is unknown how many lives it will take away this time. Not far from the end of the street, the aroma of barbecue filled the street. The business of the pork chop shop seems to be very good. There are already many people inside holding the grilled pork chops and devouring them. Oh, Gandalf. You haven't been here for a long time. The owner of the shop was a bearded man. When he saw Gandalf, he warmly came forward and gave him a hug. Old Bart, ever since you opened this pork chop shop, your beard has been getting shorter and shorter. Gandalf joked. Please sit down, I have some rum here, would you like to try it? Old Bart warmly invited the two of them to the table nearby, and then his face was full of mystery. Rum. Gandalf swallowed, but after thinking about it, he rejected the proposal. If it were another time, I would definitely drink to my heart's content, but not today. Okay then, enough meat tube. As he spoke, old Bart took out a newspaper from his arms and placed it in front of Gandalf, and then walked into the kitchen to urge the cook to hurry up. No wonder the business here is so good, it turns out to be like this. Sutong looked at the several drunken men at the dining table and couldn't help but said meaningfully. Because many drunkards freeze to death on the streets in the Empire every year, and more people like to drink and cause trouble, the Empire promulgated a prohibition on alcohol. But the more you ban this kind of thing, the more it becomes widespread, even causing the price of alcohol to soar for a time. Speaking of which, the Corleone family made a fortune quickly through private brewing and smuggling. Therefore, places where alcohol can be sold usually have good business. Gandalf on the side obviously misunderstood Sutong's meaning and added awkwardly, but I guarantee that the pork chops here are absolutely clean. Sutong waved his hand, signaling Gandalf to relax. Then he picked up the newspaper on the table, opened it, and found that the content of the newspaper was not news, but gambling news. The so-called gambling newspapers are newspapers that specialize in providing gambling news. Information about various gambling venues, odds, and horse racing and other events will be clearly written on it. This is very similar to the popular horse racing post currently on the market in Amontes. Such a newspaper considers itself not a formal channel, but it is very popular in these small private restaurants. The boss distributes newspapers for free. Gamblers like to read them and they can also get a reward from the newspaper company, which can be regarded as an extra income. Su Tong picked it up and flipped through a few pages. In addition to those small casinos, there was also a very popular bullfighting event recently, which was specially marked on the newspaper headlines. Below are detailed descriptions of several of the contestants, as well as the favorite, a purebred bull named Class. It is said that several matadors have died at the hands of the Class. Therefore, the odds are also very high, reaching an astonishing 6-1. In the lower left corner of the newspaper, there is some ambiguous news. It is understandable that gamblers have made money and naturally want to find a place to relax. After a while, old Bart had already put the grilled pork chop on the table. The grilled pork chops are smeared with a special sauce. The meat is neither burnt nor rotten, but quite chewy, which is a bit toothsome. But the taste was quite good. Su Tong ate 3 whole portions by himself. You must know that Gandalf was already quite full before he could even finish 1 portion. After eating and drinking, it was completely dark outside. Under the night, Su Tong's skin was covered with a shimmer of light. Under the increase of dark physique, the damage suffered during the day began to recover quickly. By the time the carriage returned to Morgan's house, the injuries on his body had almost completely recovered. Faced with Su Tong coming back so late, Shaer couldn't help but complain. After finally getting rid of Shar, I heard a knock on the door. When I opened it, I saw it was Josie. Oh, and that Labrador named Deli. Xiao Qian was still wearing the simple pajamas and got into Su Tong's bed as soon as she entered the door. Even the stupid dog jumped on the bed consciously and looked at him with its tongue hanging out. I've tried so hard. Whenever I close my eyes, I always think of Aunt Stacy. Josie covered her face with the quilt, exposed her eyes, and looked at him pitifully. Who can refuse such a pitiful look? When he walked to the bed, he threw the stinky dog off the bed and got into the bed. Josie had already put her head on it. Can you tell me a story? Won't. Please, any story will do. Once upon a time, there was a monkey named Wukong. Sunday the great god asked him to take care of the orchard. One day he saw 7 goddesses in the orchard. During breakfast the next day, Mrs. Morgan couldn't help but look at Josie with red eyes, and asked with concern, "My child, did you not sleep well last night?" Xiao 11 obviously hadn't come to her senses yet and muttered, "Damn monkey son, why can't you marry all 7 goddesses?" Mrs. Morgan was startled and frowned. "Josie, what are you talking about?" "Ah." Only then did Xiao 11 come back to her senses and quickly shook her head to express that she had a nightmare last night. "Hey, let's take a rest later. You have your art class in the afternoon." Josie nodded obediently, and then she noticed that Master Morgan was not at home, and Kevin did not come to eat. Shar carried the dinner plate to the table, carefully opened the lid sideways to prevent the steam from hitting the host's face, and explained, "Master Kevin is going to give a report to the church, and Master Morgan stopped by and left early." Snort. Hearing this, Mrs. Morgan's face suddenly became unhappy. She knew that Mr. Morgan went to the funeral parlor to pay for the full set of services that the bitch enjoyed after his death. Xiao 11 seemed to be aware of this, and after eating a few bites in a hurry, she got up and went upstairs. "Ma'am, this is your coffee. I added milk specially." A thin young man stepped forward. He was the new butler named by Mrs. Morgan, Longed. Long put the coffee in Mrs. Morgan's hand, glanced at Charles who had left outside the door, and casually moved his fingers. Gently scratch it on the back of Mrs. Morgan's hand. Suddenly, Mrs. Morgan's hand suddenly retracted and she glared at him angrily. What's the hurry? I haven't gone out yet. Long put his face next to Mrs. Morgan's ear and took a breath of the fragrance of her hair, but I can't wait any longer. As he spoke, Lunt actually put his hand into Mrs. Morgan's collar. Mrs. Morgan blushed for a moment and twisted her body unconsciously to cooperate. Just as the love between the two was getting stronger, no one noticed that just outside the door of the restaurant, Deli was staring at their every move. Infinite script killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 528. In Master Morgan's car, Su Tong did not go to the church, but got off the car at the corner not far from the church. Not long after, a black car stopped in front of Su Tong. There are no marks on the car, but the driver in the car is wearing the unique uniform of Shenhua. His destination today was not the church, but the Inquisition. I say this because the Inquisition has such a bad reputation. It's similar to the Jinyue, or the sticky pole in the late Qing dynasty, which makes people feel scared. According to the requirements of the main mission, I need to have a comprehensive understanding of the Inquisition. To put it bluntly, it is just a class. And you need to kill the demon yourself to pass the test. After getting into the car of the tribunal, the car drove all the way towards the farm in the suburbs. What is surprising is that the famous Inquisition is actually located in a small village. When the car drove into the farm, Su Tong noticed the prying eyes from all sides scanning the car. Su Tong could detect the alert gazes of the villagers along the way, the farmers on the farm, and even the kissing lovers sitting by the river. Until the car stopped at a farm. Soon, Su Tong saw a familiar person, Archbishop André. This slightly fat guy was waving to him with a smile. Although he smiled sincerely, he looked like he had bad intentions. Welcome, the youngest bishop in history, Earl Kevin. When Su Tong got out of the car, André could not wait to step forward. Su Tong frowned before the guy could get closer. I saw André's body was shrouded in a milky white shimmer, which was sacred power. This guy made himself as close as a light bulb. It was clear that he wanted to take the opportunity to embarrass himself. You are too polite, Mr. André. Under your rays of light that are as bright as the sun, I dare not even come closer than 2 meters to you. Otherwise, I am afraid that you will be charged with murdering the bishop and will stay here forever. Su Tong said to André with deep apology, but he quickly retreated following André's pace. I would not do anything to suffer the consequences of being dumb. I would rather give in than give André, an old thief, a chance to play tricks on me. It has to be said that such a cowardly attitude and speed made André twitch the corner of his mouth, feeling like he punched the air. But Su Tong made everything clear, so he could only extinguish the holy light on his body, but kept a smile on his face and said, "It was my negligence, come here, I will show you around." Although this looks like a farm, it is actually a very large prison cell. As he approached the door, Su Tong felt strong discomfort. This discomfort made his heart seem to be stimulated and began to beat faster. The stone here is the sacred rock of the Vatican. The heretics imprisoned here are just like ordinary people and have no ability to resist at all. André squinted his eyelids and introduced Su Tong with a half smile. Sure enough, as he went deeper, he was surrounded by a corridor made of white boulders. Su Tong's face became more and more ugly, his heart beat faster and faster, and a large amount of pure demonic energy surged through his body, seeming to mix with the surrounding stone walls. Generate strong resistance. This made Su Tong miserable, and soon beads of sweat began to form on his forehead. The cells stretched all the way down. Under the illumination of candlelight, Su Tong saw lifeless cells. Most of the cells are empty. but it can be judged from the smell of blood that permeates the cell that there are definitely not a few people in it. Andrei seemed to be deliberately slowing down his pace and began to introduce the history of this cell. For example, this cell once contained a stunning witch who was good at using curses to kill civilians. She died after being imprisoned here for about 100 days. Then he pointed to the cell on the side and said that there was a cult leader inside who was very powerful. In order to capture him, the church paid the price of 30 divine arrests and 1 inquisitor before he was captured. Unfortunately, when Andrei arrived, the cult leader had been tortured to the point of committing suicide. At this moment, Su Tong felt like every inch of his body was being torn apart, but Andrei seemed to be enjoying it, with a serious and responsible attitude, just like a dedicated teacher. After introducing each cell, Andrei took Su Tong into the next floor. Only then did the tearing pain subside a lot. I saw that the original color of the cage walls on this floor had been covered with black dirt. Even the light here suddenly dimmed a lot. A pair of eyes in the dim old room opened slightly, staring up and down at Su Tong's body. Boom! Suddenly, a skinny hand stretched out from the cell and grabbed Su Tong's arm. But before the hand could touch Su Tong, a strong white light turned the arm into ashes. Suddenly, a shrill scream came from the cell. But strangely, there was a burst of harsh ridicule from other cells. It was as if he was mocking the guy in the cage for not obeying the rules and actually trying to do something in front of an archbishop. Suddenly, laughter, crying, and cursing became more and more lively in the cells on this floor. These people have been in the dark dungeon for too long, and time has become meaningless. Some people have already gone crazy, and some people are pretending to be crazy, but they are so crazy that they can't tell whether they are really crazy. Still fake and crazy. An ordinary person would definitely be frightened by the strange scene in front of him. However, after Su Tong was stunned for a short time, instead of being frightened, a familiar scene came to his face. That's right. It feels like home. At this time Andrei stopped and looked back at Su Tong. Have you seen the devil? Su Tong was stunned for a moment and nodded. I have also seen an angel. The angel was very beautiful and even kissed me. Do you want to take a look? Andrei was choked by these words. But he couldn't refute what this kid said. I can only curse myself in my heart for eating so much. Why do I ask this? Knowing that the Archangel Michael had left a mark on this boy, why did he still ask such questions? Damn it, I have never seen an angel, let alone been kissed. But Andrei quickly regained his composure, ignored Su Tong's words just now, and pointed below. Look, just below, August, the most ferocious demon in the past 200 years, is imprisoned. Su Tong looked down in the direction Andrei pointed. I saw a bottomless pit below, and the white walls on all sides of the pit had almost turned black. With dark vision, Su Tong could see the outline of a humanoid below, with a spear pierced through the chest. It was nailed directly to the ground, unable to move. When Su Tong tried to use his life icon to look down, the picture he saw was shocking. He saw that the entire hole was covered in red mist. And these blood-red water mist are continuously gathering in the body of the humanoid creature below. Is it still alive? Have no idea. Andrei explained solemnly, this guy was nailed down by the church's holy spear, but the Templar who threw this shot paid the price with his life. Since then, this place has been piled up with holy stones. The cell where he had been imprisoned for 200 years. During this period of time, countless people wanted to go down to see what was going on, but no one could go down. The dark power below was too strong, and even some people's souls would be corrupted if they walked halfway. Having said this, Andrei looked at Su Tong and said meaningfully, maybe you can. Demonic body, holy soul. It has two contradictory characteristics, but is more like a key. When Su Tong heard this, he immediately became vigilant and raised his hand without any trace. But Andrei's voice changed at this moment. Of course, this is just a joke. Come with me, I will take you to the library. I believe that the customized equipment for you has been prepared. In the next few days, you may have to study there. Andre said, and took Su Tong to leave. But the moment Su Tong turned around, his heart suddenly beat faster, and strong demonic energy poured into his body almost uncontrollably. At the same time, a chill ran down Su Tong's back, and he could clearly feel a peep from under the abyss, locking tightly on his body without even looking back. "Don't look back," was Amrita's voice. The changes in Su Tong's body stimulated him to wake up, and immediately swallowed up the demonic energy that was running rampant in Su Tong's body. At the same time, he warned Su Tong in his mind, "Don't look back." Su Tong swallowed, pretended to walk forward as if nothing had happened, and asked at the same time, "Is this guy really alive?" "Have no idea," Amrita whispered, "but I know that if you look back, you will die, and even your soul will perish." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 529. Amrita's words made Su Tong feel a fatal threat. This is by no means just alarmist. I believe that if his soul simply dies, Amrita will not only not remind him, but may even wish that he will die as soon as possible, so that he can legitimately occupy his body. But now Amrita warned him, indicating that the guy below was so dangerous that even the big devil Amrita was afraid of him. Su Tong calmed down and resisted the urge to look back and followed Andre. It wasn't until he walked out of the dungeon that the fatal feeling gradually subsided. But he still didn't dare to look back. As he walked, he asked Amrita, "Is that guy strong?" "An abandoned low-level demon king." Amrita's voice gradually began to relax. "Demon king? You are also a demon king. Can you beat him?" Su Tong asked. "If you sacrifice your body to me, I can twist it into a twist and use it as a swing for you." Amrita responded disdainfully, full of contempt for this low-level demon king. "I believe." Su Tong grinned, "But I choose the better one." "Better one?" Amrita was confused for a moment, and suddenly understood something. "Damn it, don't count on that crazy bitch anymore, I promise you won't even think about leaving a bone in her mouth." Ignoring Amrita's roar, Su Tong followed Andre to a library behind the farm. "You can study here first. The other things in this box are the equipment given to you by the church." Andre patted the wooden box on the table. The box was opened, and inside was a set of uniforms that were the same as those of ordinary gods. Shoes, gloves, a dagger, and a revolver, a box of silver bullets. Due to the special characteristics of your body, the Holy Cross symbol that should be worn has been temporarily removed, but you can put it back on if you need it. Andre took out a small box, and inside the box was a shining silver sacred badge. After Su Tong took the badge, it was like holding a red-hot iron in his palm, and he threw it into the prop book. Holy badge, temporary prop card, cannot be taken away from the world of the scenario. The specially crafted sacred badge has the powerful power of the Holy Word, and the core Holy Light Stone can provide energy for sacred equipment. Passive Skill 1, Divine Blessing. The carrier's Holy Light skills add 1. When suffering fatal damage from the Dark System, a Super Holy Light Shield can be activated. Super Holy Light Shield can be immune to 1 Dark skill damage. After the Super Holy Light Shield is activated, the sacred badge is also destroyed. This thing is of the highest quality. If I could take it back, I'm afraid it could be sold for a lot of script points. After all, the effect of skill add 1 is powerful enough, not to mention a life-saving shield. Andre wanted to see how he was burned by the sacred badge, but he was a little disappointed when the thing was put into the guy's pocket in the blink of an eye. He clapped the bell on the table and said, "Ding bell." With the sound of the bell, someone walked in from outside the door. Any orders? The person who walked in was none other than the stupid young captain, Art. I heard that Bishop Kevin helped you discover the demon summoning array. Andre asked. Yes, thanks to Bishop Kevin, otherwise we might be remiss in our duty. In this case, Bishop Kevin will belong to your team during this period and will carry out missions with you. Ah, Art was surprised at first, and then nodded excitedly, what an honor. After Andre finished explaining, he turned around and left with a dark face. Master Bishop, it's great that you can come to my team. If possible, I would like to introduce the members of our team now. As soon as Andre left, Art greeted Sutong enthusiastically. Of course, but as the Romans do, please let me change my clothes first. At least I don't want everyone to think that I am just a young man here for vacation. Yes, Lord Bishop. Art blushed and stood up straight. For fanatical believers like him, Sutong's words are not only recognition of them, but also a great encouragement. I have to say that the benefits of the Inquisition are quite good. Even though this outfit is standard equipment, it is much more comfortable to wear than my own clothes. What satisfied him most was the handling of the joints, which allowed people to fully stretch their muscles and bones during battle. And this outfit also confirmed his previous guesses. Shoes and clothes are embedded in a special magic circle that can isolate breath and footsteps. This also explains why these guys always seem to come and go without a trace. After putting on the equipment, under the leadership of Art, Sutong met the 6 divine hunters in Art's team. The 2 main players, Isi and Sakim. Yesi and Sajim nodded. Their equipment was much different from the others. Not only were they equipped with daggers at their waists, but they also had sleeve blades and wall shields on their arms. The gloves on the arms of the 2 men were also reinforced with heavy metal. Props Master, Hugh. Xiu took off his hat and bowed to Sutong. As a prop master, he is responsible for the maintenance of all equipment in the team and the layout of traps. 2 gunmen, Baku, who is responsible for heavy firepower, and Doshi, who is responsible for light firepower. Sutong saw the heavy hand cannon in Bago's hand. This thing weighed at least 500 kilograms. Even if it didn't fire, it would be quite painful to hit someone with it. There are 4 grooves on it, and visual inspection should be where the sacred emblem is inserted. In comparison, Dorsey's equipment is much simpler. 2 silver pistols are all he has. Facing Sutong, Duozi's eyes were sharp. I have seen Samada's body. Every shot missed the vital points and hit the joints. If there is time, we can compare notes. Dorothy. At the side, Art frowned. Facing the captain's glare, Dorsey said casually, it's just a normal sparring session. Art was about to get angry when he saw this, but Sutong was the first to say, if you are driving stakes, forget it, but if you are hunting demons, I don't mind competing with you. Duo 11 Zhang immediately looked at Sutong thoughtfully, nodded and said, then I'll wait. Art immediately intervened, ended the topic, and introduced, finally, there is Qin who masters the holy light magic. Her holy light magic is the strongest among us. Qin was the only woman in the team, wearing a nun's attire. When Sutong looked at her, Qin's eyes were also looking at him. Facing the bishop in front of him who exuded a demonic aura, Qin hesitated for a moment, then slightly bent over Sutong and ended the exchange between the 2 coldly. It can be seen that not everyone will be very enthusiastic about his honorary bishop. Sutong could even feel Duozi's hostility and Qin's murderous intent. After a brief introduction, Art entered the captain's state and began to arrange patrol tasks. Because the murderer of Ms. Stacy's death in the hotel last time has not been found so far, Art decided to start the investigation from the materials of the monster summoning array. Summoning monsters requires magic dust, and it is a large amount of high-quality magic dust, at least the kind that only mid-level demons carry. This kind of casting material is strictly prohibited by the church, so if you want to get the material, you have to go to some shady places, such as the underground black market. But they only know that this kind of place exists, but no one knows where it is specifically, so they can only let everyone spread around to find out the news. Of course, this kind of thing does not require Sutong to follow. After the task is assigned, Sutong is free. What Yate means is that if Sutong wants to go back, he can just press the bell. Just as Art was about to leave, Sutong stopped him. Wait a minute. Huh? Art looked at Sutong. Where do I need to go if I want to look through the case files? The case file is in Mr. Untu's office. If you need it, I can take you there. Although Mr. Untu is not here, you still have the authority to read the file. Then it's hard work. The purpose of Sutong coming here, in addition to completing the main plot, the most important thing is to get the specific story background. Since both Archbishops André and Evelyn came to Amontes because of the murder of an archbishop, this case is likely to be the key to the world of this script. Art took Sutong into Untu's office. After opening the door, huge file boxes were neatly lined up in several rows. Rather than saying it is Mr. Untu's office, it is better to say that Mr. Untu moved his office here. The administrator who was originally responsible for managing the files was forced to move from his desk to the small chair next to the door. Not to mention how depressed he was. After hearing that Sutong wanted to retrieve the files about the murder of the archbishop, the administrator suddenly became embarrassed. This file was locked in Mr. Untu's desk. The administrator wanted to shirk that he did not have the key, but Art revealed his little idea. According to regulations, no files can be kept privately. Only those who meet the necessary permissions can read them. Damn it, you are falsely accusing Mr. Untu of having private secrets. Are you hiding files? The administrator was stunned, and his face looked a little ugly, but when he thought of Mr. Untu's gloomy face, the administrator still mustered up the courage. I'm sorry, I think, oh. What are you going to do? The administrator watched in surprise as Sutong walked to Untu's desk. That cabinet. Sutong raised his head and asked. That belongs to Lord Untu. The administrator's heart skipped a beat and was frightened by Sutong's cold eyes. The cause of Samita's death was unknown to others, so how could he not know it? Don't forget, Samita's death allowance was approved here. No. The third floor is not locked for you. You can take it. Everyone raised their heads suddenly and saw Untu walking in from outside the door. Seeing Untu's face, the administrator immediately seemed to have found someone to support him. He stood up and explained, Master Untu, it's them. Untu waved his hand to say no more. I know, Matthew, it's already late, go back and rest. The administrator, Matthew, finally breathed a sigh of relief. After the courier packed up his things, he got up and left. Art, Untu looked at Art, do you have anything else to do? Farewell, Lord Inquisitor. Art looked at Sutong and saw that he had already begun to look through the files. Then he realized that he should leave. After realizing that his character was really unlikable, he bowed slightly and left quickly. After Untu closed the door, he turned back to look at Sutong. Without saying anything, he stood up and walked to the kettle, poured 2 cups of boiling water and placed them on the table. Then he waited quietly for Sutong to read all the contents in the file. Sutong's expression gradually became serious, and the contents of the file gave him a strong sense of suffocation. The majestic red Archbishop Ilatia was brutally dismembered, and her body was placed in a demon-summoning array. When Sutong saw the photo, Aeltia's head and torso were placed in the magic circle, with a strange smile on his face. Blood, corpses, magic circles, these weird elements are entangled together, making people feel weird like never before. According to eyewitnesses, they saw a strange red light break through the sky that night, but the red light soon disappeared. After looking for it, I saw this picture. The church's investigation concluded that Aeltia's blood had been evaporated, and her limbs and brain were cooked. This represents that the summoning circle has been completed, and a powerful demon has been successfully summoned. As for which demon it is unknown. How is it? Are you surprised? Seeing Su Tong turn to the last page, Untu picked up the tea and took a sip. A bit. Su Tong nodded without denying. Let's talk about those doubts. Many, such as the death of the Archbishop. According to his observation, the strength of the Red Archbishop is basically no less than that of the eldest princess. Even if such a master cannot be defeated, it is very easy to escape. What's more, the place where the body was found was in the suburbs less than 5 kilometers away from Amantes. Why didn't Amantas's magic hunters notice such a big movement? These questions can't help but make people suspicious. Faced with Su Tong's doubts, Untu tapped his fingers on the table. So you suspect that the Archbishop's death was due to an assassination? Not entirely. Either he has had enough life, or he has an acquaintance who cooperates inside and outside. These two possibilities are the only explanations Su Tong can think of. Hearing this, Untu couldn't help but nodded. Yes, you are right. Later I discovered something that confirmed your idea. What's up? Su Tong raised his eyebrows slightly. Untu took a sip of tea, slowly closed his eyes and said, there was another person at the death scene of Iltaya. Untu put down the teacup and looked at Su Tong. That's me. After I entered the space, the first time I opened my eyes, I stood in front of Iltaya's body, even though I had erased there are all traces about me, but when Iltaya died, I had no evidence of alibi. Sooner or later, this matter will be found on me. Su Tong slowly picked up the teacup, suppressed the shock in his heart, and swallowed a sip of water down his throat. He swallowed it slowly, as if he was savoring the taste of the tea, and as if he was savoring the amount of information in Untu's words. Finally, after a moment, a bitter smile appeared on his face. It turns out to be you, Captain. Untu's words revealed two meanings. One was that the death of Archbishop Ilatia had something to do with him. On the other hand, he also has a layer of identity to authenticate players. Only players will use the word entering space. I have been thinking that with Mrs. Enman's strength, she is not even the captain, so how strong will she be as the captain of the certified player team? Now, after learning that Untu was a certified player, Su Tong was basically certain that this guy was the captain that Mrs. Enman mentioned. Hey. Untu did not deny this, and he recognized Su Tong's statement. He held his chin with his hands. Enman has told me your conditions. Now that you are here, let's have a good chat. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 530. Untu turned out to be Mrs. Enman's captain. Su Tong was actually surprised by this, and even caught him off guard. According to his initial thoughts, Mrs. Amon's team probably chose to cooperate with him because of the convenience of being an honorary bishop. But now it seems that it is obviously not that simple. Then it seems that I have no more choices. In this case, can you tell me what benefits I can get by joining your team? Welfare. Untu looked at Su Tong with a smile, but not a smile. It depends on what value you have. If you have no value, I can kill you now and bear the life of an archbishop. I don't care about killing another honorary bishop. Su Tong said frankly, I have money. That's right, I don't have anything else, but I have money. Mr. Morgan's industries are the hottest industries at the moment, and every factory is making money for him day and night. So in Su Tong's words, he has nothing, but just for being rich, his value is enough. Before yesterday, he would have had to think carefully when he said these words, but when he learned that it was the captain who turned out to be the judge Untu, Su Tong's instinct told him that this guy was very poor. This poverty does not mean in reality. Even if they are billionaires in reality, in the world of the script, Untu may have power, but he can only be a pauper. Because that's their role in the script. As for those under his command, they may have some substantial wealth like Mrs. Amon. But compared with asset giants like Mr. Morgan, it's just a drop in the bucket. Maybe they have gold and jewelry that they can sell off, but it's better if the quantity of these things is small. Once the quantity is large, it will cause a lot of unnecessary trouble. In Evelyn's introduction to her church, there was a special introduction. The gold mines belong exclusively to the empire and cannot be mined by private individuals. However, witches can use mysterious witchcraft to turn stones into gold to defraud money. It is conceivable that if they dare to take out a large amount of gold of unknown origin, the Inquisition will arrest them. Based on this, Su Tong believes that among the players in the script world this time, there will never be anyone richer than himself. As the saying goes, Untu and the others are really short of money. Even though Mrs. Anman runs a luxury store, the revenue from that store cannot support the consumption of a team. What's more, Mrs. Anman's clothing store, in the final analysis, does not open for 3 years, but only lasts for 3 years after opening. Even as time goes by, Su Tong will doubt how much energy Mrs. Anman has to complete the task and run a store at the same time. Sure enough, Untu's expression gradually softened a lot. Your main mission should be to hunt demons. We know a place where there is an intermediate demon. After joining the team, we can help you kill it. Untu extended his olive branch. Su Tong nodded, but did not end his topic and continued. As you said, you are carrying the murder of an archbishop. I am not sure whether you are the murderer, but you are definitely a participant. Andre always stays in this place and refuses to leave. In all likelihood, just spying on you. Evelyn is investigating you outside. Once clues are found, your situation will be in danger. At this time, the convenience brought by my identity as an honorary bishop can be imagined. Su Tong continued to show his importance. This incident is also a thorn in Untu's heart. The rights and interests of certified players far exceed that of ordinary players, but the difficulty of the tasks is also escalating. For example, the character he played was suspected of killing the archbishop from the beginning. But he didn't have the slightest memory of this matter, so he needed to find a way to investigate on his own. Once clues cannot be found early and the suspicion is cleared, his position will be in jeopardy. Untu thought for a long time, then took out a prop card and handed it to Su Tong. As a benefit for you to join the team, after joining the team, I can open the team's benefit permissions for you. Even if you are only a temporary member, you will still enjoy the treatment of a formal member. Su Tong didn't say any more this time and obediently accepted the prop card handed over by Untu. An eyeball, called the Void Demonic Eye, can be placed anywhere in the void to watch all the movements around him. Lasts 3 hours and has no distance restrictions. However, it can only be used 3 times. Although the things are not very good, but purely as a benefit, Su Tong has nothing to be picky about. Of course, I still have many advantages to talk about, but if I say it over and over again, I should learn to shut up and leave myself some room for advancement and retreat. Untu sent an invitation to Su Tong for a temporary team. After Su Tong confirmed his acceptance, a series of prompts also came. You have joined the 3rd level certification team, Team William. After joining the team, you can share team tasks and gain exclusive team privileges. Tip: once you join a temporary team, in this script world, you cannot cause any malicious damage to your teammates, otherwise you will be punished by being kicked out, deducting 60% of your script points, and suffering a 15-second stiffness penalty. Tip: after joining a temporary team, you cannot leave the team directly within 12 hours. After 12 hours, you can pay 1,000 script points to apply for withdrawal, or pay 1,500 script points to forcefully quit the team. Captain Monner has upgraded your team authority and opened the team welfare system for you. Compared with Yang Zixuan's team that he once joined, the certification level team in front of him not only has better benefits, but also has a stronger punishment effect. In particular, the penalty for maliciously harming teammates has been increased from the original 5 seconds of freezing to 15 seconds. Even for certified players, this time is fatal. But the benefits are also really good. All team members have a single skill Team Guardian Shield. After activation, it can reduce damage by 20%. If the core members of the team gather together, the team skill Blessing of the Eagle God can be turned on to put the team into a bloodthirsty state for 30 seconds. Team members cannot be more than 600 meters apart. In addition, all team task lists are neatly arranged and can be shared for completion. In other words, as long as one person completes the above task, it will be completed by everyone by default. Welcome to the team. At this time, Anman's voice appeared in Su Tong's ears. This is a team-specific channel that can only be used by certified teams. It is also one of the benefits of the team. Hey, it's great that the God of Wealth is here. God of Wealth, please help me with some money. I've been going crazy because of poverty recently. My name is Damu. I work as a laborer in the bull ring. God of Wealth, please come and save me. I'm crazy about poverty. Already. Zhao San works as an undertaker in a funeral home. The members of the team greeted each other one after another. It could be seen from the tone of Damushin that these people had already targeted him early, otherwise his background would not be so clear. Libo, honorary bishop, if you are short of money, come to the coachman named Gandalf outside Morgan's house and tell him that you are here to get a deposit. After telling him the amount, he will give you the money. Su Tong tried to say in the team channel. I thought that after saying this, these guys would thank me for coming, but in the end, no one responded. Unto explained that the chat frequency of the team channel can only be spoken every 10 minutes. Only the captain and vice-captain are not restricted and can be turned off at ordinary times. When there is important news, the captain can send a special reminder to ensure that everyone can receive the message. Just listen to Unto whisper in the channel, Damu, Anman, you two take a day tomorrow to help Libo complete his main task. Damu, how much money do you need? Tell me the number, and let Libo give it to you tomorrow. Take it over. After waiting for a while, the two of them responded. Damu said that it was no problem, and he would need another 300 pounds. Anman said that he could come to her shop to gather. Unto took a deep breath and looked at Su Tong. I would like to advise you, be careful of Andre. I always feel that this guy is very dangerous. After Su Tong expressed his understanding, he stood up and prepared to leave. At this time, he suddenly remembered something and looked back at Unto. This time the script won't be just your team. Unto shook his head. No, thanks to you, even though it is a killing background, only our team came in this time. Unto's hidden meaning is that if Su Tong does not join the team, they will leave no room to hunt down Su Tong, a quasi-certified player. Su Tong could only express with joy that he was lucky. After walking out of Unto's office, Su Tong saw Art in the distance waiting for him in the corridor. Seeing Su Tong come out, Art was relieved, fearing that Su Tong would be put in trouble by Master Unto. It's okay. Master Unto is actually a good person who is willing to help others. Su Tong patted Art on the shoulder and gave Unto a good guy card. The two walked out of the farm, and the car to take Su Tong back was ready. Before leaving, Yat said that they would be able to find out information about the underground black market by the day after tomorrow at the latest, and he hoped that Su Tong would act with them. Su Tong was originally not very interested in this matter. But seeing the expectant look in Art's eyes, he decided to go and have a look together. The car started slowly and gradually drove out of the pasture. Su Tong looked at the scenery passing quickly outside the window, but the expression on his face gradually became more solemn. He disagreed with Unto's last words. If in the killing mode, a group of certified players came to kill a non-certified player, that would be too much. It would not give him a way to survive. and it is too easy to do this. Just like joining Untu's team at this moment, it can easily resolve the possibility of hostility between the two parties. If so, what's the point of this script? So, Su Tong took out the paper crane from the props book. I remember that before coming in, Su Tong gave Mei the paper crane, but Mei threw the paper crane back. He held the paper crane at the tip of his finger, but there was nothing on it. Mei didn't even leave the slightest clue to herself. If she didn't want to remind herself of something, why throw the paper crane to herself? If she wanted to remind herself, why? There was nothing left on it. What was she afraid of? At this moment, a grey-black light suddenly jumped in from the car window, only to see it crawl back to the entrance of the hall behind Su Tong. It was the mouse spirit Jixiang who had been away for many days. As soon as this guy returned to the hall, he rolled on the ground and was stepped on by Da Ya. Where have you been since you died all these days? There's no letter, now you know you're back. Ji Xiang paused for a moment, but then he didn't even change his human form. He opened his mouth and said, "Ft." He spit out a mouthful of black blood on Arya's feet, and he passed out immediately.